Hey team, it's time for an early career designer's portfolio review. I'm Megan Thomas and I'm a senior UX designer with almost 10 years of experience in enterprise software design. I've taught and mentored over 300 early career designers through UC Berkeley's UX UI Design Bootcamp. In this video, I'm going to review an early career designer's portfolio and share my thoughts as a senior designer. My goal is to provide actionable feedback to help them succeed as they look for a job in the UX industry. Join me for a stream of consciousness walkthrough as I assess one of their case studies. Remember, mine is just one opinion. Make sure to get multiple perspectives before making any changes. All right, let's dive into the review and learn together. Hello, friends. I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to review another early career designer's portfolio. And today we have something just a little bit different. So already you might notice that we are looking at something that doesn't look like your typical UX designer's portfolio. And I kind of love that. So this is Anna Gondring's UX and accessibility portfolio, as I totally chew on my tongue. I would start over, but I'm not going to do that today. All right, so this is Anna Gondring's UX and accessibility portfolio, and we're going to go through it today, and I'm going to describe to you kind of a little bit of what I know about Anna's experience and journey through UX. So if I recall correctly, and this has been, I've known Anna, I guess, for about 3 years now. I guess it's 2023. It's the end of 2023. So yeah, I started teaching in a boot camp in 2020. So that makes sense. And I had the pleasure of having Anna join, or I joined a cohort for just being a temporary instructor. Somebody needed to take the day off for whatever reason. And I got to meet Anna because she was a TA. And I've seen her career kind of progress. I believe, if I recall correctly, you were a TA for the University of Minnesota class. And it was a real interesting experience. I had never before experienced Midwestern nice. So that was fun for me. And through our chats and stuff, Anna and I got to know each other. And I've loved that most of where Anna has spent her focus is on accessibility. So when we look at this portfolio, this isn't going to look like your typical UX UI design portfolio. A lot of what we do, especially because what we do is so visual, and a lot of the advice I give is to make your portfolio look like a marketing website. Like you are the product of you and you're selling yourself to a hiring manager. This came up in a LinkedIn post the other day. This is not meant to, the entire portfolio is not meant to do, like to sell the job. It's not meant to sell you. It's literally meant to give people enough of a taste. It's a teaser trailer. It's a highlight reel. It's just enough to go, let me pick up the phone and call Anna. What Anna's doing here is demonstrating her dedication to accessibility, and accessibility and UI design don't always go hand in hand. So she's really leaning into the accessibility and the knowledge that she has of coding as well. This is the other passion that I know about Anna, is that she is really excited and deep into learning about the accessible coding of the websites that we do. So not only is she a strong designer, she brings this idea of accessibility starts with design, which is something I also believe, and a lot of folks in the industry believe, and has the knowledge to be able to pass off design work to developers in a way that communicates how to bring accessibility into the product. This is huge. Now, one thing I notice immediately is this looks almost like symbols. So this, to me, and I do have my glasses on, I did just clean them, but I will say that the sketchy, it looks like handwriting. I think it's a little bit too obscured. So I know what she's trying to do is say, we're demonstrating the hierarchy and understanding how a screen reader might in fact process this information. I'm honestly curious, maybe do we actually see any sort of ARIA tag around this to make sure that we're not, okay, so you've got the paragraph class here and then the H1 within it. Okay, that's super interesting. I honestly would take out one of those BRs, I think, and just leave it to one line break, but that's just me. Okay, so this is super interesting. And my guess, based on what I know, is that Anna probably coded this entire portfolio herself, which is fantastic. not expected, but based on her specific focus within the UX umbrella, she wants to focus on accessible code and helping designers move, or helping her developers remain accessible. So this is really fun. I would maybe use a slightly more recognizable font. I thought this was like a K and a Z, and it turns out to be an H2. So that was a little rough for me. And then we have this just at a glance that might be a little difficult for a hiring manager to pick up on. So you might want to just lean into that old Times New Roman and show people that you have this context. So I love that your entire portfolio starts with about me. You're talking about who you are. And I love that you include the alt text. I'm assuming if I hover over that, I should also see the alt text on that. Let's inspect that. All right, there you are. Not sure why the hovering doesn't work. I can only assume that this is my browser or something, because the alt text is present. It's here and it's very, very clear, but you've also added it here as maybe a figure subtitle or a caption is what I'm thinking of. And then you've got your early years, after college, the tech journey, and free time. Looks like UX designer tools you use are Miro, Figma, Adobe Illustrator, unordered list. Love that. Dragon text to speech for accessibility, Axe Dev Tools, and NVDA. I don't think that is spelled or pronounced NVIDIA, like the graphics card, but I could be wrong. I'm not actually sure what that is, and it's not linked. You might want to link that, because I take that back. Maybe the people who are hiring designers with accessibility knowledge and coding knowledge, they already know what that is. But if someone doesn't know, they might be curious, and it would be really interesting to see what that is. All right. Language and libraries, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Node. And then you've got your external links here to your socials. I would consider adding the link all the way around the label as well for the text, just to make sure that it is a large enough target for folks maybe who might not have that pixel perfect accuracy with their mouse. All right, so let's take a look at your case studies. Okay, so you've got Wizard Retreat Weekend. Is it too hot? The New Yorker. This is the New York with the logo, a man with a top hat. Yeah, again, this font is really difficult. It's a very display font, and that feels a little difficult to read. If we're trying to grasp information quickly, it's kind of hard to scan. Let's see, to view the case study. These are the case studies for the New Yorker. Monocle. New York Case Study Spring 2021 Style Guild project in Figma. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm also curious about what you've got for accessibility. So a UX handoff with accessibility annotations. You've got your DEC University certificate for the certification and Section 508 standards for the web. That's fantastic. You've also got all of your coding projects on here, and this is super cool. Now, not a preview. What do I want to say? A little aside. I already kind of clicked through this, so I was excited to see it. So I actually clicked over to get it done. Also love this. This is a super specific and what is the word I'm thinking of? It's a hover state, a focus state. It's an active state that you've added here, and it is stronger than your average focus or active state in most websites. Your typical base one is kind of a light blue. So I really love that you've leaned into making sure it's very accessible, that people know this is what they clicked on. And I also really liked this. So you could, if you wanted to, inspect this and see what Anna has created here for code. But I think this is super fun because I am also on GitHub, and you've created essentially, and we can see here that I'm on your GitHub for this specific project for Get It Done. And it's search for a GitHub user or click on a language to see a list of repositories and how many open issues they have. So I'm going to put in myself here and click on Get User. And it's going to show you all of my repositories that I have created on here. Let's see. What's my Fur Babies one? What's that do? Ooh, I'm curious what all this would do, but you're just showing the repositories for me, the user. This is exciting. All right, but that's not what we're here to look at. We're going to look at your case studies, and I am super curious. So we've got topics UX, UX UI, and VR. That's interesting. Topics UI, and then UX UI and WordPress. I'm going to click on two of these because I'm excited. I think I've already seen your case study for this, but I haven't gone through the whole thing. And then I'm also just curious about the New Yorker case study. So the goal of this was to redesign the New Yorker's mobile app. and you were the lead researcher and you worked on this from February to April 2021. The app isn't user-friendly. The app doesn't allow customizations, nor does it allow the user to save favorite articles. That's super frustrating. So the goal is to make an app that the user enjoys using that's closer to reading out of the magazine. Now, these are extremely small pictures. I'm wondering if this is meant to be viewed more on a phone device. Maybe this is going to feel a little bit different. All right, so it looks like it's not responsive yet, and that's totally fine. All right, let's get back to the case study. So what I would like to see is more visuals, or maybe putting that inside of like a phone device, a mock-up, to see what that looks like. All right, so you created a proto persona to start with, and a proto persona, for those of you who don't know, are it's fake data. It's assumptions that we are able to make based on what we know of the situation of the app and the people that may use it. This may be information that we get gleaned from marketing data, from email data, that can be from a lot of different places. However, I would say that this is incredibly difficult to read. Here's my theory of who a reader of this app would be, and we will interview and review competitors to see if my theory is right. That's exactly what a proto persona is meant to do. It's meant to give you a starting place for you to get to know your users and then find out if the assumptions that you've made are in fact true. And we always do that by validating our assumptions through user interviews. All right, so the next thing you did was a competitor analysis. This looks like it's an image and an image. All right, so I know that you know that this is really impossible to read on for anyone who needs accessibility support. So anybody who's using a screen reader, or even supportive assistive technology, which I had a great conversation the other day with Chris DeMars, and we had lots and lots to talk about, but in particular, we laughed about how people don't realize that they are using assistive technology a lot of the time, even when it's just like, well, this isn't technology, these are just glasses. Well, at one point, we didn't have glasses. We were not able to provide people who had failing vision the opportunity to use vision like a normal sighted person. I put normal in quotes because what's normal? But at one point, this was very new technology. And now this assistive technology that I rely on every single day is totally normal. But because I have these glasses on, I'm able to read these. But since they're in images, it's very difficult to process. So you've been looking at comicsology, take comics further. You looked at strengths and weaknesses from these. Same with the Atlantic app and the New York Times app. Okay. We've looked at strengths and weaknesses here. In reviewing this, reviewing these competitors, I got insight into users' reading habits when they're looking for something to read and what makes someone keep using an app over switching back to a physical magazine. All right. Now, I think I've said this a few times this week, and we still see them, and that is exactly totally normal. So we've done interviews here, and you interviewed 3 people who gave me insights into their reading habits. Here's the affinity map from the interview data. So what I would rather see instead of these affinity mapping right here, I would rather see your key points. I would rather see a couple of quotes from users, and what did you determine from doing the competitive analysis and from talking to users? What did you determine was your next step in the design? Why did you decide that? And what were the indicators that led you to believe that this was the right decision? So you've got a user persona and empathy map. Okay, so this is very similar to your proto persona, and I would definitely call out that typically for a proto persona, we wouldn't use an image. We would use something like a cartoon. We would use maybe just a quick sketch just to get a visual for it, but it's actually not that necessary. So this information, Reader Rachel, this is actually starting to sound more like a behavioral archetype. What does Reader Rachel do, and what does she need out of this app? So you've got your proto persona here. From the data gathered, here's my revised user persona and empathy map. So rather than just labels alongside pictures with too much text in them, I would definitely like to know what made you, well, first of all, what changed between the proto persona and conducting those interviews with users? What changed from the proto persona to the user persona? What added? What did you take away? What did you determine was not useful in making design decisions for this user? I want to know a little bit more. And again, these aren't helpful assets to include. These aren't helpful outputs unless someone can actually read them, because we want to know what made you make these decisions. So I'd like to see these called out in something a little bit more specific, in plain text even. So the answer, I'm thinking what you mean is the solution. So an insight statement, Rachel's looking for good news sources, local events, and books to read. Reading is important to her and looks for quality in everything she reads. Jobs to be done. Now, I would definitely move this to the left side, make it left aligned. If we're using bullet points, we almost never, just kidding, it's not almost. If we're using bullet points, we don't want to center the text because it means that the bullet points no longer make contextual sense. So in order to understand this and not add to the cognitive load of the user who's reviewing this website or reviewing this case study, make it easy for them to read and find the beginnings of every new sentence. So the jobs to be done, this is also interesting. We almost never see this because boot camps and lots of places. Okay, I'm not going to say all of them. I'm like, let me retract and be careful with my words. I have not seen people who are not already in the industry using the jobs to be done framework. I have the book, and I have to be honest, I haven't read it yet. I've done some skimming to understand like what's the concept here. And essentially it's, what does reader Rachel, what are the things, the tasks, the jobs that Rachel needs to do in order to feel successful? So when I'm reading the news, I want to be able to read about events around town and get new book suggestions so that I can have one source for news, events, and book reviews. Sounds like a custom app to me. All right, we went into the mock-up, and we've got a bunch of mock-ups and stuff here, but I have no context as the viewer of this case study to understand what am I looking at and what is changing on these screens that help me understand what the story is. So, Anna, I need you to tell a little bit more of a story on your low fidelity mock-up here and explain to me what I'm supposed to be taking away from these screens. Otherwise, you're just including screens without context, without a story. What's going on? All right. And that's the end of the case study. So it looks like you've come up with a solution, but I'd really like to know, what were the results? Was this actually used? Who did you present this to? What metrics were you interested in finding out? Did this help Rachel find more events local to her? Did this help Rachel, or was this likely to help Rachel find books to read? So that felt a little like it ended a little too soon, but I think you can add a few more lines of context to both those mock-ups and to the solution just to let us know, how did it wrap up? All right, I wanted to look at this other one. All right, this is the Wizard Retreat Weekend Project. So design and develop a website for the Urban Wizard Weekend Retreat Project. This was July 2021, October 2022. About the client, the group that shall not be named is the world's largest in-person Harry Potter meetup group. They have over 4,000 members and hold events throughout the metro of New York City, maybe the metropolitan area of New York City. The problem, one of the main problems, is how to get New Yorkers to know they can get to a location that isn't on the subway line. Honestly, that is a real problem. When I lived in New York, if it wasn't on the subway line and I couldn't map it out, I didn't know how to get there. And the goal is to make a website that for users to get the information they need to feel enabled to buy tickets to the event. All right. Their research. I reviewed PAX Unplugged site. They run a large game board conference that the parent company runs events. So this is not super easy to read. This is probably 4 times longer than the recommended line length for online reading for your reader's comfort. So if I was going to do this, I would put some margins in here, maybe do a max width of 900. That still feels like a lot, but keep that a little bit closer together and make it easier. Also, I would absolutely recommend that you have someone here who is a really good reader and speaks really well and writes really well. There's a lot of grammatical errors I'm noticing here, and I'm kind of just like breezing over them as I'm speaking. But if you're reading along with me, you're probably noticing that I'm replacing words. So I would absolutely recommend having someone else review this. We get way too close to our work, and it makes it really difficult to it makes it difficult for us to spot issues with our work when we're the ones who are just in here day after day after day. So we not only do we not see the issues, it's literally because our brain is filling in the spaces because we know what it should say. So have someone come through and double check that everything is spelled correctly and that everything is grammatically correct. All right, so you're looking at PAX's website and you're saying that the hotel and travel page gives little information. However, it provides links to more information, and the homepage is straightforward with easy to read information about the event. All right, this feels like it should be like a solid section by itself. And then the interviews could also be a section. From prior events the group has done, I reviewed user pain points they had when the group used to host a conference in Laconia, New Hampshire. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Sorry to anybody who lives in that city in New Hampshire. I apologize. One of the leading issues they had with ticket sales was location and how people would feel they could get to the location. Overall user demographics: women, traveling alone, well-educated, upper middle class, liberal, carless, and LGBTQ. Those are interesting. I feel like I would call this out just a little bit more. It feels like it's just been crammed up into your competitor analysis. You've got your persona and journey map from the data you had reviewed. Here's your user persona and empathy map. Again, these are all text and images. So if your primary goal as a designer and developer is to make accessible things, we can't provide so much so much text and images on the website. This is also, I can't actually read it. So, oh, look, if I open a new tab, it's better and I can see it much bigger. Okay, customer journey, actions, thinking, enthusiasm level, meet, activities, travel, book. Do I need to bring all the books with me? Probably not. Okay, so that is super interesting. But here it's really difficult to see, and I would also crop that image just a little bit better. From other events we've hosted, we know travel is a big worry for users. Most of our users don't know how to own a car. This just crams right up onto that edge of the screen, and I can tell that it's not like scrolling left and right. It's just got no margin over there, no padding for this section. So double check all that. The analysis of the hotel. The hotel's part of the event as much as the theme is. So selling why this location was chosen is just as important as it's about a Harry Potter weekend. Again, when we're using bullet points, we want to left align those so that we make it easy for our user to read them. I was the solo designer and developer on the project. Please feel free to take a look at the site. Please visit the Wizard Weekend retreat here. I would have that open into a new tab so that when I click it, I don't leave your portfolio. That way people can remember. Because if I come back to my website and I see Wizard Retreat Weekend, I'm not going to remember that, oh, that was on his website I was looking at before this. I might just get distracted and get excited about the Wizard Retreat Weekend for next year. All right. Mailing list sign up. So you've coded all this yourself. This is fantastic. Events. Oh my goodness. This is so fun. Halloween ball. Awesome. A weekend away with our wizard friends. Retreat staff. I feel like this needs, this does not meet accessibility standards. This is far too light of a text color on a beige background. Means that this is missable. I'm also curious if this is an H1 or an H2. Is this the H1? That looks like an H2. I feel like we should have an H1 here on every page to meet accessibility standards. The retreat staff. House Ravenclaw. This is so fun. Oh, I love that the colors are associated with, I believe, oh, maybe not. I thought they might be associated with the houses that they're in, but who knows? Hufflepuff is yellow. Oh, I think it is. So deep gold is Gryffindor. Hufflepuff is yellow. Ravenclaw appears to be blue, and Slytherin is, of course, green. Okay, I feel like that aligns. This is so fun. Oh, that's lovely. The guest house retreat center, getting there, estimated travel times. Okay. I feel like maybe we could add some better labels here. So by air feels like it should in fact be a heading, and it's just a span. No worries. So make this a little bit easier to process. And I feel like you're on a great start. Anna, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to review your portfolio. I sincerely hope that the highlights that I've looked at here are helpful for you to make changes to your website. And I sincerely hope everybody who watched along with this is at least informed about how to make their website just a little bit more accessible. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is not the intention. We definitely just need one case study to be super accessible and very easy to process. So thanks so much for joining me today, everybody. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you sign up to get your portfolio reviewed. I'd love to see it.